we love food, colored green, bell peppers and long string beans, pickles, celery, cucumbers too. All these foods are good for you.
Welcome to Storytime Cooks, where we learn about food through books. Today, we are going to be reading Rodeo Red, and this looks like a really, really fun book. I think it's about a cowboy, and that will give us a clue, or maybe it's a cowgirl, as to what our snack recipe is going to be about this week. I go by the name of Rodeo Red. My best friend in all the world is my hound, Rusty. And there is Rodeo Red, and there is Rusty. Rusty and me, we've always been happier than 2 buttons on a new shirt until Sideswiping Slim showed up. Well, Slim, I think, might be a baby brother. The first time our eyes ever met, I knew Slim was trouble. He looked as slippery as a snake's belly in a mudslide. That'd be pretty slippery. But the sheriff and her deputy seemed smitten. And I think the sheriff and her deputy might have been mom and dad. And there's that baby, and it looks like it might be crying. Any of you ever heard a baby cry and just cry and cry and cry? That can be kind of annoying. Slim laid low for a while, but gradually he started moving into my territory. I'd come home to find my belongings in a tumble. My spurs missing or grape jelly smeared on my favorite hat. Oh my goodness, look what that baby has done. That hat is not looking as sharp as it did when Rodeo Red left it. I tried reasoning with Slim. I showed him the border between his camp and mine. And I think they put a line down the middle of the room. But that scallywag talked nothing but gibberish. And he just moseyed back into my ranch like he owned the place. Finally, I threw in the sponge. I didn't want nothing more to do with that cantankerous lemon custard. Then one day, Rusty weren't nowhere to be found. I looked everywhere for him. I knew right then that Slim was up to his side-swiping ways. And they've hunted and hunted and hunted, but no doggy Rusty. It was time for us to go toe-to-toe, eyeball to eyeball. And right there it says Slim, so I bet that's Slim's room. Late that night, I snuck into Slim's camp. There he was, sawing logs. Poor Rusty in his clutches. He was sleeping with Rusty. No wonder that Red couldn't find him. I eased up and tried to slip Rusty out real gentle-like, but Slim was squeezing that dog tighter than a greenhorn riding a bucking bronco. I tugged and I pulled, but it weren't no use. "Dad burn it, Slim," I hollered. "Give me back my dog." Well, that woke him up, and he set to squalling like a fire truck headed to a wiener roast gone bad. Look at his eyes. I think he might have been a little bit surprised. In 2 shakes, the deputy was in there telling me to get. Wouldn't you know, Slim would have had the law on his side. I went back to my ranch feeling lower than a prairie dog's basement. I just had to get my Rusty back. And you can see Slim is still holding on tight to Red's puppy. The next day, I snuck back into Slim's camp. I swing my rope and caught Rusty around the middle. He lassoed it. But Slim lit into a fit loud enough to cause a stampede. The sheriff showed up, and well, what followed weren't pretty. Not only did Red lasso the dog, Red lassoed her brother and had him tied up. She dropped me into the holding cell quicker than you could say lickety-split, and I was madder than a bee in a Sunday bonnet. Now, I'll have to admit, I have been in the same holding cell that Red was in. Have any of you ever had to sit in a chair for time out when something didn't go quite right? I had to. When the sheriff finally let me get out, I decided to drown my sorrows and grab some grub. And you know what Red was drowning her sorrows in? Some milk, and she was eating some cookies. That is another clue as to what we're going to be making today. Halfway through my second cookie, I heard a commotion. The stagecoach had arrived with the mail. Glory be, there was a package for me. It was a belated birthday gift from Aunt Sal. Wonder what's in there. Now, Aunt Sal is a good old gal, but truth be told, she is a city slicker. I was hoping for a sturdy set of boots or a good piece of rope. Instead, I got some sort of a varnished varmint. It looked lazy and addle-brained to me. I doubted it could even keep mice out of the barn. And then an idea lit up my noggin. I bet I know what Red is going to do with her new toy. I sauntered into Slim's camp, bold as a new nickel. I had that sissified simpleton in my arms, cuddling it like it was the best thing I could ever think to be. Slim's eyes shone like 2 full moons. He stretched out his hands and he said, "Gimme, gimme, gimme, gimme." I took my time, petting it real slow-like. "You want the critter?" I looked him square in the eye. "You got to give me back my dog." Slim hesitated. His eyes darted back and forth between Rusty and that fussy feline. I could tell he was weighing things out. But the sight of that dolled-up dandy was finally too much for him. He handed over Rusty like he was hot coal at a barbecue. And there, Red's getting her dog. After that, Slim didn't pay Rusty no never mind. He hugged that frilly varmint like he had found his best friend for life. Well, there's no accounting for taste, but what did I care? I had Rusty right back where he belonged, safe in my arms. It was time to put my boots up for a spell before the next adventure. I tucked Rusty close and we headed back to the ranch, happier than 2 freckles on a sunny cheek. And she's riding away on her rocking horse. Well, you remember I told you that those clues kind of gave us an idea as to what we were going to make today. Anybody want to take a guess? We are making cowboy cookies. I guess we should call them cowgirl cookies since our story was about a girl cowboy. But they look pretty yummy, and I bet Red would like to have some of these, and I bet you would too. Well, we're going to give you the recipe for these today. And they're made with oatmeal, and January is actually oatmeal month. And some of us like to eat oatmeal for breakfast. I really like oatmeal for breakfast. And we might use oatmeal in some other ways, but oatmeal cookies are one of my favorite things. So for this particular recipe, we've got oatmeal in them. We've actually added some chocolate chips. That makes them taste even better. But I wanted to do just a little bit of information on how you would measure the ingredients that are going to be in this recipe. So when you get flour, it's already pre-sifted, so you really don't have to sift it, but you want to gently spoon it into your measuring cup. And it's a good idea to stir it around a little bit first, and then we're just going to gently scoop it into our cup. And we want to get more in there than to the top of the cup. And we're going to take the flat edge of a knife and we're going to smooth it off so it's nice and flat. And we'll have exactly 1 cup of flour. This is how we would measure flour. We could also measure our oatmeal this way. If we took our cup and we scooped it in the bag and patted it down, like I've seen some of us do when we're measuring things, we're going to end up with way more flour than what we actually need. And that's going to make our cookies not be nearly as good. So we're going to gently spoon that in there. The same thing goes for the baking powder and the baking soda that's in our recipe. We're going to take our measuring spoon, and there's a flat edge along the top of this can that we can use and just smooth that off so that it's nice and flat. So it's important that we measure our ingredients accurately. This is a liquid measuring cup. The mark on it is down here, the full line, and so it gives us a little bit of extra space so we don't spill that liquid when we're moving it from one spot to another. And then our dry measuring cups, in order to get an accurate measurement with those, you have to go all the way to the top. So our story today was about rodeo red. I've got my red tablecloth. We have our red color card here. There's a lot of things that are red. And our recipe uses one of our whole grains, which isn't in the red section. The red section is our fruit, but oatmeal goes in this brown section right here. So it's a great way to get some whole grains into your day and have a yummy treat at the same time. I hope you've enjoyed our story today, and I hope you'll come back and join us next week for another time with Storytime Cooks.
We love food colored green, bell peppers